I love the Power Club.
Come with me if you want to live.
I love the Power Club.
No time for time travel.
All right, welcome to another episode of the No Time for Time Travel podcast, where we're a podcast for nerds by nerds. And my name is Tony, and joining me all the way from Sweden, but by the time you listen to this, I think Quack was actually not in Sweden, but then later in the week, if you do listen to it later, then Quack will be not in Sweden and not in California. It's Quack.
Hello. I'm so confused. I don't know where I am anymore now.
Yeah. So typically I say, like, you know, Quack is in Sweden and then stuff like that. But technically, when this episode's released, Quack is in California. But then technically, by the time you guys listen to this, which is after like Tuesday or Wednesday, he may not even be in California anymore. So
I'll still be here, I think. Yeah. Oh yeah, not in California. Yeah.
Yeah, not in California. So yeah. So I did tell you guys last week, if you are listening to this now, that we don't have like a live episode this week. So what you're listening to is actually a pre-recorded episode that we did last week, but we're now, you know, talking to you now. So, time travel. Yeah.
Ooh, we're going to the future.
The what?
The future.
Yes, the future is your present, and the present is our future. Okay. But anyway, so this week, on this episode, we're going to be talking about, what was it?
Games done quick.
yes, games done quick, or like speed runs, like video game speed runs. And I guess we're just talking about anything that we experience with speed runs. And so I guess we can just start off right away. So you showed me this video of a speed run for the game. What was the game called?
Half Minute Heroes or something like that.
Yeah,
half Minute Heroes.
Yeah, I was watching that. I was like, what the heck is that? It's like they're talking so casually, like what you said, and then but the screen just like, what is going on? It felt like it was being fast forwarded. Yeah,
so it was really weird because like I didn't know if this was like a speed run or if this is like the natural gameplay, because he was explaining the game at the time as well. So I thought like he was doing like a live demo of this is the game, and he was explaining how like the part of the game is pretty much to beat the boss within 30 seconds, half a minute, pretty much, and then you're gonna reset and do it again, and you progress through the story that way. And I felt like, okay, so the gameplay is fast by default, and then he was moving very fast, so I'm like, okay, so it's part of the gameplay. And then he was talking, because like he was talking so casually, like he was like, oh yeah, so this is the game, blah blah, and every 30 seconds he would do this. And then he was talking just as fast as like any like a really really fast, actually, just as fast as like the when you skipped through like those cutscene or fast forward all those dialogue and RPG games. It's kind of like that. And I was like, wait, I don't know what this is. Is this like a game demo? Is this like a speed run? And then he's talking about like strategies. I'm like, oh, okay, it's a speed run because he's talking about strategies and how like certain things he's doing it. I'm like, but then like the gameplay, like, just like everything is, the game itself is already really fast. So you have to beat everything and try to go through, level up, do what you can to beat the boss within 30 seconds, repeatedly over and over. So it was like, I'm so confused. Everything's happening so fast. And after a while, I'm like, oh, okay. The guy is just really crazy and like good crazy. And the game is already really fast up a pace on its own. And he's talking so casually and explaining to the announcers like what's happening, what's the strategy. And the announcers would have like brief talk or questions for the guy, and just like small interactions. And then I was like, man, how does he interact? Like, how does he multitask like that? Like, I'm playing like a slow paced game, and when people talk to me, I would zone them out and I wouldn't hear what they say. And here he is playing like a super fast game at super fast speed for like for a speed run pretty much while talking to announcers. And I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, if you guys want to look it up, just look up for speedrun for, was it half hero?
Half Minute Hero.
Half Minute Hero. And it's insane because yeah, just looking up the regular gameplay of the game is really fast. And then you look at a speedrun. So it's a speedrun of a speedrun, pretty much. Because the game is a speedrun.
Yeah, so it's like everything's fast forwarded and you don't know what's happening.
Yeah. I felt like I was on speed or something. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like Quicksilver.
Yeah, so I was telling you that, you know, Games Done Quick was another like kind of speed run. I think it's like a live event where people do speed runs, and you know, when you watch, do you watch a lot of speed runs?
Not a lot, but some, yeah.
Yeah, some of these speed runs are insane. Like I was watching the speed run for Breath of the Wild. So how much of Breath of the Wild did you play?
Not too much, but I have seen the speed run where they know like all the shortcuts and they take like the path. They pretty much just go straight for the boss, more or less.
Yeah, like I was watching a speed run for that, and you know, in the first portion, right? Like before you even get out of that place where you wake up in, there's like a glitch at the wall where you have to jump up and run a certain way, and then if you run correctly, apparently it knocks you. Let me see. Apparently it knocks you into like like, you know, like it just clips you through the castle and you go underground, and then you run out and then you're outside of the bounds area that, you know, in the beginning of the game you have to stay within the bounds before you finish the tutorial stuff, before you get out of that bounds, but this thing clips you through it and then you can actually just go out and start your game right away, and you get all your equipment and just play. And the thing that's really like crazy about that too is that, you know, because that glitch happens, it locks the time in at 5 p.m. or something like that, or 5 a.m. So there's no weather affects the rest of your run.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
that's how it works. Oh.
Yeah. So it's like these crazy glitch tricks that they do so that they can like get through the speed run. It's like really amazing, and it's like, man, how much did you play to figure out these glitches, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really crazy, like what you're saying. And then I've watched like Pokemon, like the old Game Boy versions, like Red and Blue, and people do speed run of that. And then like they even say themselves, half of it is just like RNG of like having encounters and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's like, man, how they just take one Pokemon or two and just level it up a certain way and then just beat the whole game with it. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And to be within like, I don't know, like an hour or two or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. It's crazy. I also saw like a old like Super Mario run. Haha, Super Mario Run. There's a mobile game. But it's crazy too because they not only do the regular like warp tunnels, but they do glitches with the warp tunnels.
Yeah, like it's crazy. Like I don't even know how to do, like how they find out like these glitches.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get it because in a way, it's kind of like playing a fighting game over and over, and you start learning like these strategies that work the best.
Yeah, I understand it. It's just like, man, imagine if like these guys work for the company and they like QA just testing for the glitches and bugs. Like they're pretty much doing that, but then like on the finished game and for free.
Yeah, but that thing about the bugs, right? Maybe they're already identified, and maybe the developers just didn't have that on a high priority, so they released it as is.
Yeah, no, probably like it's probably just like a thing that slips their mind or like slip under the radar that they didn't know about it.
Yeah.
So it's nothing on like the developers. It's just more like, man, for people, because like certain glitches require like a certain requirement, right?
Yeah.
And for them to have to run into that specific requirement is like, wow, how do people run into these And I'm just imagining like old games, like before like streaming and everything was popular and or internet. It's like how do people like get speed run for games that are like when they don't have like all the necessary resource?
It's also just even like crazy, just normal secrets, right? Like back then in the arcade, right? Mortal Kombat. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, to fight Reptile, you must be at the pit or something. No, sorry, was it
Yeah.
at the pit or something? I forgot.
Yeah.
And then you must do a double flawless with a fatality, and then there must be a shadow of some creature that goes across the moon. And then if you do all those things and you don't use the block button, then you get a chance to to fight Reptile. Like, how did someone stumble upon that and then know that those were the criteria? You know?
Yeah. It's like how much do you play? Like not even that. Like you have to replicate it, right? To just like reassure yourself that that is how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like replicating that difficult task. And then back then, arcades were not cheap. They were just like, they were eating quarters all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's
Yeah. I
crazy.
mean, like now it's a little bit easier. And it's funny because like when they stream games like Pokemon Blue and stuff, it's like, okay, it's totally emulator.
Yeah.
It's just kind of funny because back then it's like, oh, you're downloading games, that's not right. And now people are streaming downloaded games.
Yeah, no, I still, I do see that. And I mean, it's still questionable whether it's right. There's that whole argument about game preservation. So, like, I know Nintendo's been hard on, piracy and emulators and all of the old games that only have ROMs available online. And then they're like shutting down Emu Paradise and other like websites similar to that. And but then the thing is they shut them down. And then, of course, they sell those games on their online service, which, makes sense why they would shut it down because it's a profit generating thing for them.
Yep.
But there are games that will never get released again, ever. And what happens to those games? They just disappear. They get deleted and lost, right? So that becomes a whole argument with like game preservation and how should games be preserved. This is like someone's hard work, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's like a whole different topic.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what you're saying. It's kind of like it's good that it's digital. Like most of the stuff are digital now, but or digitalized. But some games they're like still on. They're not like very popular. And in order to play it or even try it out, you're never gonna have that option because it hasn't been digitalized.
Yeah.
And it's still on the game cartridge that may not even work even if you have like the Nintendo anymore because it's just deteriorating.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there are a few games that I had on Nintendo that like I have not been able to find a digitalized version of.
Yeah, so I actually never heard of like the game preservation, but it's a really good point though. Like it comes to the point of it's like the borderline between money making and the principle of things, right?
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
like how much do you want to push the principle of things to make more money?
yeah, I mean, there's like for Hollywood, right? They preserve films that are filmed, and they have like a whole section that they would preserve the films, and even music. There's a music preservation thing, right? But video games, there's not so much one. Like, I'm not aware of any. I mean, are you aware of any video game preservation, like museums or whatever?
No, not at all.
Video game. I'm looking it up. Preservation.
The most I could think of is like if people are collectors, they would buy it and just have it in a really nice condition. And that's about it. But that's just like very rare as well, right? It's just certain people would have that, and certain people would have certain games.
Oh, I'm looking at this news article in 2018. It says the Librarian of Congress and the U.S. Copyright Office, they made the decision that could mean older games can legally be saved by video game historians and archivists as video game preservation.
Wow.
There's like specific rules though. There's like, specific exemptions.
So now I'm just thinking like, you know how like there's museums where people will take it into, they're trying to preserve like archaeological or historical uh, um, artifacts sort of thing, and they take it into the room just to make sure that it goes through the whole process.
Yeah.
But now I'm just thinking, oh, in the future they'll do that for video games.
Yeah, arcades will be the museum.
Yeah. Yeah. Library of Contrast. Video Game History Foundation.
Oh, that's cool. Huh.
Things we stumble upon.
Yeah. Huh. Anyway. Let's see. Back to speedruns. What were some of your favorite speedruns?
I think the one I just showed you right now is actually pretty good. The half a minute Well Hero. I saw it. It's really good. I tried to watch the Pokemon one, and it was interesting, but at the same time, it wasn't. There was a point where I was playing Zelda. I got really into that as well, and I see like people do all the glitch trick that you were mentioning. So it's interesting to see like, oh, you can get away with a lot of things and just all the glitches. But I'm gonna say that the half a minute hero is by far the best one, just because of the video I showed you of Games Done Quick. And I was like, man, the guy is talking really fast and casually, and the game's going by really fast and casually. My brain can't keep up.
Yeah.
And I'm not the one playing.
Yeah. It is crazy. Like I can't even oh wait, what was it? There was a speedrun I watched a while back. I can't remember what it was, but it was like, I remember the reaction. I remember he streamed himself playing it online, and it was a speedrun, like a legit sponsored speedrun. And when he beat the record, he dropped his controller and like he just casually beat the game, and he was just laughing, and some other people in the chat started like saying like, oh, you beat the record. He's like, what? Come on, and he looked at the clock and he started freaking out. He dropped his controller and started screaming. Like, it was really cool because he did not expect to beat the record for the speedrun.
Yeah, I think it's more like when you do it for so much, it becomes like muscle memory and habit, right? And then you're just like casually going about doing things, and you're just like, oh, and everything's already really fast. So like 1 or 2 second it's hard to determine with like without a counter itself or timer.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, okay, wow, okay.
Yep. What other games were there that had like? I'm pretty sure Mega Man had a bunch of speedruns.
Yeah, I think so. So it was funny. During, was it Half a Minute Hero? There was a section in the beginning where like, is one of those things where like, how in RPG games you first have to start really strong, and then you fight up the boss, and then you die, and the hero get reset to like level 1 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then he was talking about like, okay, I'm gonna. They're in that part right now where there's like this section where the goddess or time goddess or whatever said like, oh, do you want to make a pact with her for something to reset stuff?
He chose no.
And then he's like, no, I'm gonna click no so that it'll speed up the time.
Yeah.
And everything, and then the screen goes, the time goddess goes like, I completely understand why you want to say no. But was there ever an RPG game that moved on by selecting no?
Yeah,
and then,
I saw that.
And then I was like, you're forced to select yes. I'm like, okay.
It was like that whole meta thing.
Yeah. So it's just like a really fun game where it just breaks the meta, or like just like break the fourth wall, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, I saw that too. That was pretty funny. Everyone was like laughing in the audience too.
Yeah. But there's a lot of speed run that are really good, and it's kind of interesting to see what they do. Like even in we call it Path of Exile, the game that I'm playing is like a MMORPG that's kind of Diablo-like. They have like they don't have speed runs, but they have like things called racers, people called racers, who essentially is like for people who don't know, every 3 months there's a new league, which is like they implement a new mechanic, and everybody gets resetted. So the economy get reset and etc. Everybody start at level 1, new characters, that sort of thing. And there's these people who call racers who pretty much knows the efficient route of everything, of like what skill to get to level up faster. And you kind of just like, you start out with 0 gold or 0 currency, and the maps each time are randomly generated. So I don't think Diablo is like that though. So it's like, if you go into, let's say, section A, there's like 4 or 5 certain layout, and then you do that throughout the whole progress of pretty much until you're like level 8, until like you're near end game content. And these people, they more or less memorize map layout, like most of them, like 90% of the map layout.
Wait, but it's like you said, it's
and I'm
random,
like,
almost.
So when they enter a zone, yeah, practically. So it's like there's like only they more or less know the area. So they say like, okay, this is more of the exit, or like the route to the other zone will be somewhere on the top left corner. This will be more of like a spirally kind of map. This will more the map will be like on the right side, away from this. So they notice like these certain patterns. So like when they enter a route, it's okay, based on the indication of this one, the jar or something at the bottom of the entrance, I know that this map is gonna the map exit is gonna be somewhere on the top left. So they just start heading towards that route, and pretty much 90% of time they're right, and they just go explore and just go through the whole area. And it's just like, man, how did you get to like, they get to like a pretty late game content and start getting to like high level really fast. And in the beginning, it's really cool because this time around, I was able to just be part of the starter league just to see what happened. And they have like announcement like, oh, so-and-so character was the first to enter this town. So-and-so character was first to beat this boss. So-and-so character were like, it was announced globally. So it's just kind of like the race pretty much. And it's really interesting to see how the community it works, and how the people that play this game a lot, they know the in and out of the game so well that they have like these micro techniques or tips. Like let's say I would have my like one of them was like they would have the keys or like the skill of certain thing binded to a certain key, so that they can move and click at the same time more efficiently. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow, that's so crazy. And for them, it's like every microsecond counts, just to get one, just to get like be the first to enter like a certain area or something. I was like, man, it's kind of interesting and crazy how far these speedrunners or even racers go to, or how much work they have put into the game to know like all these tips and tricks, right?
I wonder if like I wonder how many hours they do like spend like maybe a day, or if they like practice every day, like, you know, like playing an instrument, right? You practice like 1 or 2 hours a day, every day of the week, and then you got like checkpoints of your instructor. So then I wonder if like they have some kind of disciplined, like, you know, a schedule that they have to be so skillful.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I know like probably like some of these people, they were playing since like beta phases. So when like everything was new, and they probably play like once or twice a day. But it comes down to like the burnout as well, right? Like what you're saying with practicing instrument, like you could practice every day, but then you'll be so sick and tired of it.
Actually, you're right. When Sonic Fox, like one of the Mortal Kombat players, when the Mortal Kombat beta came out, he was already streaming it like hours and hours during the beta, like per day. Just like when I would like leave for work, I would see that his stream started, and when I come home from work after 10 hours, his stream is still there.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
yeah, man, that's crazy amount of work.
Yeah, but I guess those guys. I mean, some of these people are professional gamers as their full-time job. So
But some aren't. Like I remember, like I was watching these guys where they're just like, late 20s, around our age, pretty much, and they have like wives and kids, and they're just like and for them, like for at least like for Path of Exile, anyways, they're like middle-aged people, and they're just like, okay, today I think I'm gonna do some family stuff today, but tomorrow I'm gonna have a like one good day to like race and start doing it just enough, get everything ready. My wife said that she'll understand, blah blah. So, and then for them, like a race is like 5 or 6 hours just to get to like level, I don't know, 60 or 70, something like that. And I'm like, man, and then but like what you're saying, some of them are full-time gamers, like full-time streamers, where that is pretty much their living, right? They just work on like based on like the funds of the people donating to them on the Twitch account.
yeah,
So it's kind of interesting now that you think about like being a gamer as a occupation.
yeah. It used to be like only nerds played video games, and then now it's like, oh, no, it's a full-time job. Actually, it's funny because I remember growing up, right? I'm like, oh, I want to like play video games for a living when I grow up, and that was like the most ridiculous thing any parent would hear.
Yeah.
And then now it's like not only a normal thing, but it's like a huge like moneymaker too for people who are in the professional side of things.
Yeah, yeah, and they're more or less like athletes, right?
Yeah, yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, they have like energy drinks like developed just for focusing, like for gamers, so, and then all those crazy sponsorships of like big name companies too.
Yeah, so it's like we knew like Korea was a big, was like a big, had a big like a social impact on like the gaming community. But then when it shifted over to North America and like globally, that's when it got like really crazy because like. Back then, like in Korea, our friend Brian Yang, like he was telling me like StarCraft is a big thing. Like you're considered a celebrity over there, and this is back in like 2004, 2000-ish.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wow, that's crazy to hear that, and because back here, like the internet we barely have DSL.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're like, oh man, and then it's like, was it 10 years later or so, 10, 15 years later, we kind of finally caught up to Korea in the sense of like the gaming industry, like being so globally known, like with StarCraft, now they evolve into like a whole bunch of other games that are potentially like a competitive game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just crazy to see how evolved the industry has gone. And I don't know what happens next, but it's really cool that we're getting to see how it expands.
Yeah, just to really see. Yeah, like you're saying, it's like really cool to see how like we see the society shift. Yeah.
So, I think like I don't know, like what's next with like speedruns. Speedruns are cool, but then I don't know like what they can do next for that. Like we know about professional gamers and then speedruns and professional competitions and things like that. And it'd be cool. They I don't know if like is there a glitch run or is that just a speed run? Like what?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I think there are certain like categories. Like there's glitches run. And there's like glitch runs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So now I see what they mean like by like glitch run or glitchless run.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was just like Yeah. So before it's just like, okay, we just run through what do you mean by glitch? What glitch? And you see like all these crazy things that they do. It's like, oh,
You're like, wait, is this the same version that I'm playing too? Because it's like,
yeah,
I didn't know you could break this.
yeah. It's just a really interesting world that they live in, and that we got to explore.
It's their world. We just live in it.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, we could. I guess we could finish this discussion about speedruns, and I guess we will talk to you guys again next week. Okay, I'll just end it here. So, no time.
That's how we like to end things.
Yes.
We get awkward.
Yes. All right. Well, no time for time travel. Signing off. Heard you going with speed. See ya.
Bye.
I loved Power Club.
Come with me if you want to live.
I loved Power Club.
No time for time travel.